Well, good morning, everybody. We're recording this. So we post it out there on our respective social media platforms. So anyone that misses it or wants to review it again can have a chance to queue it back up. So for this podcast, you just have Rob Sutherland and myself. We didn't get any guests because we wanted to talk about you, right? All about
Exactly.
you. So how are you,
Exactly. Rob? I'm doing fantastic. It's another sunny day here in Vancouver, British Columbia. We're getting some good weather finally after a bunch of rain, which is great, But I think it's important to we're going to talk about recruiting today. I think one of the things when people look at themselves and look at recruiting is it doesn't seem like it's fun. Wouldn't you agree?
It is. It's kind of like going to the gym for some people, especially myself. It's something you don't wake up and say, hey, I'm running to the gym today. Or for you guys, it's like, hey, I'm going to start recruiting. So that brings to mind an old quote from Mark Twain that he did on, procrastinating and, how do you handle all things. And Mark Twain famously said that if it's your job to eat the frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. So I think that's a great quote, just because, if you put off recruiting to the end of the day, or it's one of those things you're always going to get to later, chances are you're just not going to get it done, right? And Rob, you were telling me same with you in the gym. If you don't go right away, you're just not going to get it finished. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, time management is definitely one of the things people struggle with when it comes to recruiting, for sure. And, one of the things I think when you're thinking about starting to recruit more or building a recruiting campaign is, what is the outreach going to look like? What type of outreach are you going to do? And of course, we always recommend phone calls. And so when a broker owner or manager starts doing those calls every day to the realtors in the area, trying to book appointments for himself and things like that, we always a good question to ask is, how are those calls going? How are they going? Sure, you're saying you're set aside 45 minutes in the morning to do these calls. You're getting around to it. And then how are they going? Are you actually connecting with people? Do you sound like you're excited to talk to them on the phone? Is it the best, use of your time? And I think that, one of the things that, is kind of different about nowadays, after everything that's happened the last couple of years, is that recruiting is a lot more fun. It used to be, you're waiting for people to show up at the office, waiting for people to come and walk through the door, that type of thing, setting these in-person meetings. With the availability of Zoom now, so many more people can meet with agents, on a more rapid basis because they don't have to come into the office. And I was just wondering, when we're talking about that type of outreach, what do you think would be a good place to start for data? You guys you've got access to all this data, when we're looking at recruiting, what pool, for someone who's starting to do their calls to make it easier and more fun, what pool of agents do you think is probably the most receptive to a phone call?
Right. Well, I think, one of the key words you brought up is, focus on what you can do best, right? Because you can't do everything, right? And that's part of just time management. So if you can delegate certain tasks and focus on what you do best, which hopefully is just closing the deal, as we've discussed in the past. And so a lot of what Rob and I bring to the table are all of the tools to get yourself organized. I put a link in there. Every 2 weeks, we host a Ask the Expert for OnTask to kind of go through best practices, some of the things. But one of the things that a lot of our managing brokers do is if we can queue everything up, and you use a service like Rob's, where he goes out there and calls and makes a connection with the agent, and then all you do when you come in the morning to eat that frog is to call that preset appointment and close the deal. I don't know if it can get any more efficient than that. And like you said, Rob, identifying the agents, a lot of you already know. I mean, OnTask plugs into the MLS system through Broker Metrics, so You identify the agents, you know about the agents, you can see what their GCI is, how it impacts your work or your bottom line. You can prioritize it, and then you can give that list or a subset of that list to Rob to call and queue up appointments, and that way you're working on the most highly efficient task, which is just closing the deal. So,
And we should mention that it isn't actually me making the calls, as much as I used to love doing that back in the day. But yeah, no, I mean, we've got a team of recruiters over here. And one of the things we always look at when we start doing a recruiting campaign is how can we make this fun for the client? You know, how can we make this interesting? We had one of our recent clients email us back and say, you know, your emails to me every day are like Christmas. And I thought, well, hey, that's a great note, because they're looking forward to it. You know, they look forward to us doing the work for them every day, because number one, they know that it needs to be done. And probably number two, they don't have the time nor the wherewithal to do it, you know, and they've tried maybe somebody in their office where they've talked to a realtor or their manager and said, hey, do my recruiting calls, get these done. They need to be done. And then those calls never go well, you know? And so I think, you know, when people look at it, whether they hire, you know, somebody like Pro Broker Agency or, you know, or somebody else, or they get somebody else to do it, is again, to look at the list and the data. You know, I mean, there's a good reason why Paul's on here with me, is because, you know, we like having targeted lists. You know, we had somebody gave us a list of like 30,000 people a few weeks ago, and it was not targeted. And, you know, that account has gone poorly because the people on there aren't vetted specifically to that brokerage. The more that you can like identify good candidates that fit for your brokerage by production, the less chance you're going to waste time on your recruiting efforts, and it'll make it more fun because you get to reach out to people and congratulate them on, hey, okay, last year you did 8 deals, but this year you've already done 8 and it's already halfway through the year. You're on track to do 16. Wow, you're on your way up. Congratulations.
and
You know,
then
making
with with the targeted list too, you can build some meaningful scripts around that audience, right? So if you've got, you know, experienced agents that you're dealing with that's on a targeted recruiting list, you know, they have a certain level of production, then your staff has that script to deal with those agents, as opposed to just randomly calling, what did you say, 1 out of 30,000 people on the list. I mean, I don't even know how you open a conversation in a meaningful way to connect with that agent, because without the connection, you're just not going to get the appointment.
Well, absolutely. And I think the more, I mean, I'm trying to figure out a new word in the real estate industry other than recruiting, because number one, you're not calling people and offering them a job. And number two, it's not the military. You're not recruiting them in. It is selling your office to someone. Wouldn't you agree, Paul?
Mhm.
You know, you're selling your brand to a prospective realtor that, you know, they may be involved in their current brand, and you're trying to sell a new product to them. It's different than just a recruit, you know, as opposed to giving someone a job. And so I think
Right.
our most successful clients are people who, like, let's say it's Monday, we make a call, we set an appointment for Wednesday for broker John, you know, and so broker John gets a report from us on Monday that says, hey, we set an appointment for you on Wednesday with Steve from X company, and he's looking forward to seeing you. Here's his cell phone number and here's his email. I always see our best performing clients are the people who send an extra touch in between the appointment and say, hey, thanks for talking to our recruiter. You know, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Is there anything I can help you out with today? And we find that the people that do the more supportive style of recruiting, as opposed to trying to cram fees down the throat or support or tech or this, that type of thing, you know, when you come across with that real helpful vibe where you're there to support their career, that type of thing, it's genuine. And that resonates very well within the residential real estate industry.
No, I agree. And I think,
And that's where you can start tailoring scripts, right?
tailoring scripts, and you know, if you can divide up your day, you know, one of the things they always say is finish your day before it starts, right? So the day before, you know, like Tuesday night, you know, like tonight, you're supposed to think about, what do I want to accomplish tomorrow? And you write out your goals and you be specific about it. And if you know, if our audience wants to take like a 2-week trial, what I will suggest the following, which is go in OnTask, find a targeted group of people you want to recruit, and we provide the tool so you can search for people trending up, trending down. You can do a certain level of production area in your region, you know, where they sell, and identify those people. And then I would suggest 2 things. One is you give Rob a try, because we're all month to month, and have him do some calls there to try to get some appointments set up. And the other thing that you can do, which we have a tool in OnTask, is a following module. So you can take that list of people, you dump them in the following module. And when that person has an activity, a closing, a new listing, it'll bring up a to-do and OnTask and allows you to reach out to them right away. So now instead of looking at, opening up your recruiting list and you're like, oh my God, I got 30,000 people to do, where do I start? It's one of those things where we've all been there. You just take some baby steps, put some of them over to Rob, take some of those that you want to follow. And if they have a listing and closing, then all you have to do is go to that following module and reply to them. You can reply by email or text, right? That way you're not overwhelmed by like, oh my God, I got to do a drip campaign, or am I going to do a bomb video, or, how am I going to attach it? Just take those first baby steps and see where it goes, right? And we're all month to month, right?
Absolutely.
Rob, so you can try Rob's services. All of his stuff, as you hopefully know by now, is tracked through OnTask. The recruiters represent themselves as your recruiter, not pro broker or agency calling on behalf of so-and-so. And it's a local phone number. So the recruiting that Rob is doing when he calls is from a local number as your representative, and it's all tracked in OnTask. So if you do that and you do the following, we call it the high five recruiting module, and just see where that goes, maybe not in the next 2 weeks, but in the next 30 days, I think you'll be surprised that if you just do those two things, that you will end up with a lot more recruits than you successful hires, let's say that, not recruits, successful hires than you thought. And that 30,000 list is not overwhelming. So
well, and I think we've talked before, recruiting is not a side project, and whether you've got a list of 30,000 or a list of 300, it still pays to be focused on your outreach, and to focus on the right type of people and to focus on the messaging. Because if you're targeting somebody that's doing between 4 and 15 deals a year, that is a huge pool of agents in America. That is the largest pool of people to recruit. They're the ones that move around the most. It's a great place to be. If you spend all your time targeting people who are 25 deals and plus, who are making, 2 deals a month and more, or maybe have a team, that's going to take a lot longer. And I think that, when people want to get results from recruiting, they do want it immediately, it seems, because it's always gets left behind and they want to catch up on it. Right. And so I had someone talking to me on the phone the other day about recruiting and said, hey, should I put this on pause for the summer, or should I wait till the fall? And I said, well, it is like sales. You've got to do it year round. You've got, slow months, you're pushing so that people are paying attention in the busy months, right? We always push extra hard through August so that September and October are easy. It's not really something to take a break from. Obviously, if your office only can handle so many people, that's one thing. But if you're looking for strategic growth, maybe it's 1 or 2 realtors, maybe it's 20 realtors, it's still something that has to be done. And so using the targeted list with a CRM is a great place to be. We love it. We love using that type of thing. Again, all of our recruiters are based here in Vancouver, BC, Canada. We've got about 30 of them now. And so, we've got lots of room. People want to give it a try this month, that type of thing. You can book an appointment in to talk to me at probroker.net. But I wanted to just give a shout out to Paul here for putting these podcasts on, because I really appreciate that, Paul. But the reason why we do these is because we trust Paul's product, right?
Well, thank you.
At the end of the day, we use spreadsheets, a lot of the time to do calls. Someone gives us a spreadsheet, we do a call off that. Not as effective as a tool like a CRM like Paul's got, where you've got the ability to create separate lists that are all managed, that are pulling data from broker metrics on a regular basis so you can see their production, make fresh calls. If there's one thing I've learned in marketing in 25 years, is that fresh lists do better than old lists, right?
And ours is updated regularly. And it sure helps, other than just seeing production, we actually have current listing and recent closing data for the last 30 days. So then, when you reach out to that person, you're not just seeing what their last year's production was. You can actually say, hey, congratulations on that recent closing you did on that $750,000 house. And that makes it more of a touch. So why don't we see if anyone has any questions they want to type in, but you know, while they're thinking of that, again, if over the next 30 days, I would encourage you to try just those two things. Some calling services from Rob in the following module. Actually, I might even throw out the co-broke module. So any of your agents that do a deal, that'll show up in the co-broke module. And
We
again,
love
makes
that.
for a very easy conversation, because as opposed to cold calling somebody out of the blue, you can say, hey, my agent Mary just closed a deal with you, and she says you're a rock star and should be working in my office. That's the easiest script right there, if you follow the
And it's a good
co-broke.
call.
Right?
Those are great calls.
I would
You know,
encourage you guys to do that and use Rob's calling services and see what happens. So I don't see any other questions coming in here. So do you have any closing remarks?
yeah, I mean, again, like we were talking about before, this podcast is supposed to be all about you, the broker owner, you know, or the manager. And so, you know, one of my thoughts is always, even when I used to recruit for Remax, I mean, this was 2008 to 2012, I recruited for Remax. I was always trying to tee up an appointment for the broker owner then, because at the end of the day, the broker owner or the manager was able to close the deal. They were the decision makers, that type of thing. But they had no time to generate leads for themselves. And so that's why still, you know, in 2022, we're still doing the same thing here, which is great, but it still needs to be done. Whether you're a small office or you're a large office or you're a group of offices, you've got to have a regular recruiting plan, whether you're corporately owned or you're independently owned. It is something that has to happen, because it's just like sales. You know, why do you think Amazon started advertising their movies on the tape on the boxes? Because marketing, advertising needs to be done, you know, and the recruiting is marketing and advertising. You're advertising your office, you're marketing your office, you know, and so that's what we love to do. We love to build brokerages over here at Pro Broker.
It sounds like you're saying that you'll eat the frog in the morning and then serve up a nice cooked dish to the managing broker.
Can it be frog's legs?
All right. Well, I think that concludes our cast. So appreciate everyone signing on. And again, please just try those things over the next month. Try Rob's services, or at least call him. He'll tell you about how they set it up in the script. Look at the co-broke module. That's an easy phone call to make, as well as the following module, the high five recruiting module on OnTask, because it gives you pretty much a built-in script right there. Work with my broker, or you just, I saw you just got a recent listing. So try those, and we'll see you in the next month.
Next month, yes. It's always a good day to be doing calls and to be recruiting, Paul. Always a pleasure to see you. Again, if anybody wants to book an appointment to chat with us, probroker.net is our calendar, and probrokeragency.com is our website right here. And you'll see a different price on our website than what Paul will charge you. Paul actually gets a discount. So
yeah,
make sure you talk to us soon.
I twisted his arm good. So, all right. Thank you,
We're happy.
everybody.
Have a great week, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in.